All right, everyone. I say this for anyone who's not familiar with my spiritual beliefs. I'm actually not a Christian. I'm a pagan. So when people are talking about the Merry Christmas, the War on Christmas stuff, my variant of Christmas is not the same as like a Christian. I don't worship like Jesus or anything. So keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. But unfortunately for those who are like, yeah, well, there is no, like, the Starbucks cups and stuff. That's not actually like a war on Christmas. It's not actual, like, witchy symbolism and shit. And, generally speaking, it's really exaggerating to say that many people have a problem with hearing Merry Christmas. You're always going to get like that one person in 1,000 who just flips their shit no matter what happens. Those are called social justice warriors. It's not a war on Christmas, it's their war on common sense and their never-ending struggle to feel offended to justify their own meager existence. But Newsweek, and Christina Mazza was the person writing this, declared that saying, essentially, in a nutshell, saying Merry Christmas, or insisting that it should be given a special place in society as an American tradition, despite the fact that commercialized Christmas is 100% pure Coca-Cola Americana. It was literally built by the United States. It's not a Middle Eastern holiday, it's not a European holiday, it's pure America, absolute United States. Despite that fact, it is racist. It makes you a Nazi if you think that that should have perhaps a special slot in society. Now, keep in mind, for the average person in U.S. culture, Christmas is not specifically a religious thing. Christianity, moreover, is a Middle Eastern religious movement. It has nothing to do with the Western world. It has nothing to do with white. It was not built by white people. It was built by Middle Easterners living in ancient times. It has nothing to do with, all the white Jesus imagery that you get. A lot of that's like medieval and Renaissance era. It comes later. It has nothing to do with the foundational premise of the religion entirely. Christianity is not a European religion. Paganism of various forms is. I suppose you could say that certain variants of offshoot, like the Mormons, it's maybe okay. It's a Europeanized style, although again American technically, religious movement. But that doesn't have anything to do with the actual like foundational Judaism upon which it was built, or certainly the sort of Mesopotamian tribalism that became Judaism. It has nothing to do with that. And they're saying it's racist. I'm not seeing how Christianity is not a race, and the religion itself is simply the Coca-Cola the holiday itself is the Coca-Cola holiday. Like Santa Claus and stuff like that's not religious symbolism. There's some loose basing, like the conflating of like Saint Nick, Father Christmas stuff with Santa Claus. All the other stuff is like industrial era, early 1900s, literal Coca-Cola company. It's like the idea of giving somebody a diamond when you're getting married, giving your wife a diamond ring. It's that has nothing to do with any ancient tradition. It has nothing to do with some sacred religious ceremonialism, even though it's accepted widely in religious circles. It has nothing to do with that. And by the way, Kwanzaa was created in the last century by someone who was a legitimate racist. But the Coca-Cola company of the early 1900s probably just wanted everyone to suck down their sugar water. They didn't really care what race you were while you were drinking it, as long as you paid. Trust me. Very good at corporatism, very good at corporate branding. They invented basically a quasi-religious style holiday. When the Christians, by the way, here's the other thing. They're talking about like, well, white Christians have they've seized the religion. Trump has seized Christmas. They've made it into a Nazi holiday. What about black Christians? There are tens of millions of black, and you realize how many Hispanics are Christian? Catholicism is pretty popular in southern Texas. Let's just say that. I don't think that they feel it to be racism to say Merry Christmas, because you're not going to hear a lot of happy holidays in some of these communities. The fact that the religiosity might be a little bit more liberal, so-called, a little more moderated than, in a Bible Belt community, that really doesn't change things, and it really doesn't friggin' matter. As far as the holiday goes, it's Merry Christmas. Now, I'll tell you my feelings. My feeling is this: if I know that somebody is a Christian, I'm going to say Merry Christmas to them. If I knew that they were practicing Judaism, I would say Happy Hanukkah. If I knew that they were celebrating Kwanzaa, I'd say Happy Kwanzaa. That's just out of deference. But if I don't know, the general statistical assumption is they're probably celebrating commercialized Christmas, whether they're a Christian or not. You don't have to be a Christian to celebrate American-style Coca-Cola Christmas, which is what these people do. Most of these Christians, they'll go to church, they'll go to a Christmas mass, but when they go home, what are they doing? Gifts. The tree that they use is a pagan symbol, by the way. It's quite literally taken from European paganism. That's a pagan element. We're talking about Saturnalia and all of these other things wrapped up. It's just like Easter. Now, Easter Sunday may be considered some great big spectacular sacred thing in Christian communities, okay. But Easter, as it tends to be practiced by people, is all about fertility symbolism. Eggs and rabbits and chickens and shit like that. It's literally a fertility ritual. And moon worship. You know, the hyper-religious Christians. Hate to say it, like the real hardline evangelicals, the ones that the only thing they do on Christmas is they bake a cake for Jesus and say happy birthday or something. They're technically right. Yes, these holidays, Christmas as it tends to be celebrated, is not religious in nature. It's not Christian in nature, and it certainly has nothing to do with the race. No, you can be of any race and say you can give people gifts and have Santa Claus stuff and hang up the mistletoe. It doesn't matter if you're white or if you're black. Who fucking cares? You're celebrating a secular holiday. And as for the fact that Trump would say, well, you know, it's about, keep Jesus, he's the reason for the season and stuff like that. A bunch of churches and black churches do that too. You see signs outside of the black church or the predominantly Hispanic Catholic congregation saying the same thing. What's the problem? I see no problem with it. Now, if somebody is really insistent, like not just to Trump levels, but they're like, oh, well, we should ban anything that's not a manger scene, basically, during this time of year. It's a sacred tradition, and they're like hyper-religious. That would be about the same as being like a total snowflake, and you're like, no, ban all religious iconography, except for Kwanzaa. That's perfectly fine. You can't even have like atheistic-style Christmas, so you can't have the airing of the grievances. By the way, I thought Rand Paul's was pretty funny. His images, his meme game has been stepped up a level, making him definitely a contender in the future to perhaps run for the presidency again in this social media-driven campaign age. But no. Christmas is not racist. It hasn't been taken over by Nazis. I know the big thing now is anytime something happens that's slightly to the right of the Overton window, it is immediately declared a Nazi rally. Like the Kilroy event, that's a Nazi rally. In the wake of Charlottesville, the Free Speech Conference in Boston, where the main speaker was a Senate candidate, I think he's a literal immigrant from India, that's a Nazi rally. All of these people are just desperately bigoted individuals. The funny thing is, if you look at, again, the savior of liberalism itself, FDR, the standard bearer of the Democratic Party, he was a desperate bigot who threw hundreds of thousands of people into prison camps without any warrant and without any actual reason, leading to a constitutional crisis. So, yeah. What a wonderful guy. Meanwhile, Trump's an automatic bigot. Now, Trump really doesn't care about what race you are. He wants your vote, and he probably wants to give you a tax cut. But he probably does want you to say Merry Christmas and not Happy Holidays to him. Look, he celebrates Christmas as the ultimate corporate holiday. It's the Coca-Cola holiday. Of course Trump's a pro-Christmas guy. He's not sitting there rambling about Jesus all day. It comes off as so phony. I'll tell you one thing about Trump. Anyone who thinks that he is particularly religious has taken the bait hook, line, and sinker. That's just a throw-off to the evangelical voters. What's he said in the wake of being elected about abortion and gay marriage? Or even about like drugs and stuff. He's not doing any moral issue haranguing. None of it. The only person around him that even cares about this sort of stuff is Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions I think Trump told him, hey, focus on the FBI because there's something fishy going on and lay off the drug war stuff. And apparently there's like a miniaturized rebellion among his staffers. Jeff Sessions are, and they're like telling him how dumb he is when it comes to drugs and things like that. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You probably think that weed causes heroin addiction still. What are you talking about? Trump is a Merry Christmas kind of guy because he'll suck down the Coca-Cola, or I can't remember if he's a Pepsi man or a Coke man. You should drink Dr. Pepper. If you're going to drink soda at all, if you're going to drink cancer water, which is basically what it is, Dr. Pepper's the tastiest of them. I've had, I think, a couple of servings of soda in the last 2 years. Red Bull aside, that doesn't count because it's the point of that is caffeination. I need more of it. Look, there's so much news to cover. I've got like 5 things listed right here next to me on my notepad file as ideas for videos. And, you know, it's not even 10:30. It's insane. So, yeah, Merry Christmas, you know, belated maybe, to Donald Trump, because that's what he celebrates. He has every right to weigh in and say he celebrates Christmas and wants to say Merry Christmas. What, just because it's not Obama celebrating, like, what, Rosh Hashanah or something like that? I would assume you're probably not going to see many pro-Kwanzaa posts on the White House website. He doesn't celebrate Kwanzaa. Yeah, and if you want a holiday made by a bigot, that's really the one, oddly enough. But you should be able to celebrate it anyway. I mean, most of the people that are celebrating it probably aren't bigoted, so do what you want. They're all corporate holidays anyway. It's like Hanukkah, the way it's celebrated. Oh, yeah, buy this food and that wine and, you know, all this shit. It's corporatized. Corporatism, capitalism, so-called, absorbs all. It turns it into secular, irreligious slop, repackages it, makes it brightly colored, and feeds it back to you to get you to buy things. All of the ceremonialism of society, all of the holidays have been totally commercialized. Halloween, totally commercialized. Original idea is totally religious, totally Euro-Christianized. And then it gets transmogrified and sort of gets Americanized on this side, and then it turns into the candy holiday. But that's a relatively recent phenomenon. It had nothing to do with, hey, you need to buy the candy corn that nobody ever eats, buy the gallon, otherwise people will throw eggs at your house. It's a relatively modern thing. If kids wasted food throwing eggs at their neighbor's house for not giving them candy 100 years ago, their parents would have beaten them within an inch of their lives. Just think about that one for a moment. And they were too busy getting scared by extremely creepy costumes. Look up vintage Halloween costumes if you want to really frighten yourself at any time of year. It's better than any creepypasta. Some of it's kind of out there. Yeah. But yeah, I don't have a problem with Merry Christmas. It's like I celebrate, you know, sort of a fusion of Yule and secular Christmas. You know, do the gifts and stuff. And the tree is a pagan symbol. I'm not going to church to worship baby Jesus, right? You know, who was probably born in April, but, you know, who cares? I'm not going to do that. But if someone says Merry Christmas to me, I'm not going to flip my shit and say, no, it's celebrate Odin, it's Yule. I'm not going to say, no, it's about Satan Claus. You know, come on, lay off of it. Stop acting offended all your lives. That's about all. Peace out.